So far away, Lucas, what could you buy for £1?
Maybe a Freddo if I'm lucky.
Yeah, not much anymore, could you? But a couple of years ago, you could have bought an entire company worth about £1 billion. In the world of business, corporate hostile takeovers are a way of life, and on any given day, there are probably like 30 men in immaculate suits sharper than an Apple branded switchblade, fucking someone over for a quick buck. However, it's not very often the case that this sentiment is quite literal, as happened in 2018 when an Australian company had to sell something once valued at nearly £250 million for £1, because they fucked up. What do you know about the business Homebase?
Homebase, is that similar to like a B&Q type situation?
Yes, and there's a reason why B&Q and Homebase often get mixed up with one another. And you familiar with what that is? This may be one of those things that's like acritical, but I want to tell the story anyway so we can get corrected on it in the comments if I'm wrong.
I mean, I don't even know what the word acritical means, so there we go.
It means maybe. Actually, you know what? I'm probably pronouncing that word wrong as well, so that doesn't matter. But, apocryphal. Damn it!
Oh, okay.
Apocryphal.
Again, either way, I've not heard of that word.
It means like probably fake, but enough people know it where it's not. Unless it doesn't, and someone's correcting me. Anyway, there's a rumour that those two stores look exactly the same because one, I forget which one, wanted to get bought out by the other one. So to entice the other company into buying them, they rebranded to make all their stores look the same. So if they got bought out, it'd be easy to slap their name and branding on it. And
they wouldn't need to refurb it all, yeah.
But then they never bought them. And that might be what they said. That might be a story that's like fake, but I heard that once and it was really funny, so I thought I'd say it. But yeah, B&Q and Homebase are like, I guess for Americans, like Home Depot. Just a store that sells like home goods, soft furnishings, power tools, garden supplies, all that good stuff. And they were once valued about $1 billion at the peak. So a very wealthy company with a good foothold in the United Kingdom, contrary to what Lucas's response was there. Like, what? What's that store? You can tell me and you don't do DIY, can't you?
Now that I've like started renting a house rather than a flat, I've had to do like odd jobs, but you know, renting, you're literally not allowed to do most of the DIY stuff yourself. Because you get told off if you do. And Lucas, come on, I'm sure both me and you did some bodging when we were at uni to get our deposits back. So is there any specific examples of bodging you did while at uni to get your security deposit? Bodging for the Americans is just like a colloquialism for just like, jury rigging something. Like redneck engineering, I think would be a more colloquial slang term for you Americans. It wasn't even while I was at uni. It was in my last flat. So in my last flat, I decided I've started working from home, started working at Fiend, and I'm gonna start trying to make an effort into making a little home office room. I got a bunch of command strips to put everything up because again, you're not allowed to nail or screw anything into walls.
Yeah.
And I stuck all my Rock Band guitars on a wall as a big display piece. And then one day I just heard a crash and they'd all fallen off, but also started tearing the wall down with it. And I just basically polyfilled and painted over it. It was like, yep, jobs are good and let's walk away.
That's what a builder would do. I'm talking when I was in university and I accidentally put a few holes in the wall from putting up posters and said, don't do that, I will charge you. And I just did the classic, what my dad told me, if you get toothpaste, you put toothpaste in the hole and then paint over it with nail polish and they'll never know.
Do you reckon they ever found the Jaffa cakes? That's what I want to know.
Can we talk? Are we allowed to talk about the Jaffa cakes?
I guess we are. They can't find us now.
Yeah, we used to live in a house. It was a 10-bedroom house that 10 people lived in. And there was a hole in one of the walls where a fireplace used to be. And we were complaining to our landlord of look, there's a hole in the wall, you got to fix that. And I shit you not, folks, on the way, there was no hole there as he put his fist right through the wall. And then they never repaired it. So we just when we were having drinks and stuff, we just throw stuff at that hole. And one day started frisbeeing Jaffa cakes through it.
I mean, don't get me wrong. It was an old Victorian converted workhouse that was on a canal. For sure there was already rats around. But we were just inviting them in by putting Jaffa cakes in the wall. Bringing it back to Homebase, it was valued at its peak, as mentioned, about $1 billion. And during its life cycle on the market, changed hands more than a slightly bulky piece of luggage on a journey through an airport. It kept getting bought out, sold, bought out, sold, bought out, sold, bought out, sold. Because a lot of people were we can do something with Homebase, realised they couldn't, then sold it on. Which, really, it showcases how good an investment it was. That it kept getting bought and then immediately sold, which didn't stop
an Australian company called Wesfarmers buying Homebase in 2016 for about £350 million. So just over £250 million, or nearly $500 million a few Americans. But you're probably wondering, like, what was Wesfarmers? Well, they owned a series of stores that were similar to Homebase in Australia, and they wanted to turn Homebases into those. The problem was, Lucas, what's the weather in Australia like?
As far as I'm aware, a lot warmer than over here.
Yes, and Australian people tend to have larger gardens than us here in the UK, and houses themselves tend to be bigger because there's more space. There's Australia is like a massive I think it's like only 10% of Australia's landmass is actually populated. Even like the equivalent of an Australian council house is twice the size of what one would be over here, just due to the amount of space available. And that's not something Wesfarmers took into account when they converted a bunch of Homebases into Bunnings. Bunnings Warehouse, what we call in Australia, what we know as Bunnings. And they just decided, fuck it, stock them the same way we would in Australia for Australian summers, during British winters. They literally have their summer during our winter, and they have their winter during our summer. And one of the things that Homebase used to do is that they would change their offerings based on the seasons. So during summer, that's when you put on grills, garden furniture, things like that. During winter, you bring all that stuff back, you put it in warehouses, you replace it with things like heaters, soft furnishings. And Bunnings decided not to do that and just outfitted them the same way they would in Australia, despite Australia literally having the opposite seasonal variations.
They really didn't research that one bit, did they?
No, the thing is, you don't even need to do market research for that. You just need to be aware of how geography works.
Well, that's what I meant. I meant they didn't research what fucking seasons were.
No, they didn't even they just need to look outside. And they didn't just sell barbecues and stuff. They sold the kind of barbecues that would be better suited for an Australian garden. So they would sell, do you know British barbecues? You have a circle, and you get 4 burgers on there.
Were they selling ones that were the size of British gardens?
They were selling ones that were the size of a dolphin's coffin. Do you know the joke in The Simpsons where Mo pulls up with the deep fryer from the Navy, and it's doot, doot.
I got it used from the Navy. You could flash fry a buffalo in 40 seconds.
And they wouldn't even fit through most people's gate, let alone in their garden. And they were selling these, and people were intrigued by them, but no fucker bought them because they literally did not have the space.
That's one of those things of oh yeah, that'd be nice if I had the space and money to put that in my house. But guess what? Britain, we don't.
Yeah, and they also start selling things like hot tubs and things like that. Again, a nice thing to own, but not exactly a value add for many British homes.
When you can use it for 5 days of the year.
And we actually experienced the opposite of that last week, didn't we? When we had that heat wave where temperatures for one day soared above 40 degrees. And the amount of smarmy Americans we'll just buy air conditioning. It's one, houses aren't outfitted for air conditioning in the UK. 2, they are built specifically to keep the heat in because they're insulated because we have more cold days and hot days. And 3, even if we did buy air conditioning, it'd be usable on 2 days of the year. Anyway, in regards to Wesfarmers, they just made mistake after mistake after mistake. And one of the more baffling decisions they made is when they bought Homebase, they brought in their own team of executives, which, is pretty common when it comes to, corporate takeovers. But the executives that they replaced with their executives were the people who'd worked with the company for several decades and knew the ins and outs of how it worked and all those details I mentioned about, seasonal changes and idiosyncrasies about different areas of Britain. So I think even between individual home-based stores, they change their offerings based on things like, the socio-economic background of people who live there and, the specific weather patterns they had. So, for example, up in, north in the Outer Hebrides and stuff where they get a lot more rain, maybe you don't want to sell as many barbecues up there. There's those little things that you only can learn after, years of working in that specific area. And just Wesfarmers fired all those people and replaced them with their own executives who ran the stores like they would in Australia, despite not being in Australia. And it was a catastrophic failure.
Oh, I thought you were going to say it's a very savvy business move to know nothing about where you're selling product.
Nope, it was a huge, huge problem. And it only got worse because not only did they lose millions of, pounds in potential revenue as people just stopped going to the stores. Because in addition to, just not offering seasonal stuff, they removed some of the more popular items that were sold in Britain, like soft furnishings. And they removed them, citing that, well, that's woman stuff, isn't it? This is a store for power tools and grills, that's for men. Not realising that, well, who's spending most of the money in British households? It's the women. It's like when you're aiming like something at families, like who's generally the person who spends money in a household, in like, a traditional nuclear family. It's the woman, isn't it? She goes out shopping and getting the stuff. Who's decorating the houses? It's the women. No, this is like not what I'm saying, but this is like, the traditional view upon it.
That's an antiquated thing to say, but like it's still predominantly true, at least in the UK, like that.
And it's one of those things where you don't feel as bad for them failing when you realise one of the decisions they made was, well, we don't want women shopping in here. We're going to outfit our stores with 18 different kinds of power drill. It's like, cool.
Yeah, I feel a lot less sorry for them the moment you say that.
Like, not realising that people tend to buy, they'll buy one power drill and then they won't buy another one for 10 years, but people redecorate their house every couple of months.
And you've got lots of rooms to redecorate in certain houses. Like, there's no reason for me to own more than one power drill.
Yeah, but there's plenty of reasons for you to go buy new curtains or bedspreads or towels, things for your bathroom, knickknacks, and those little impulse buys that you do when you're walking around. It's I'll get a little house plant or something, or a cushion that just says I love wine on it or something like that. But they said no, we want the big ticket items. That's how we're going to make our money. Big purchase items grills, power tools, saws, and there's not even just the little ones, the full ones that you put in a garage. And when's the last time you walked into a British garage that wasn't completely fucking full, either of the 2 cars that the people have or just all the crap they can't fit in their house? You might be wondering, folks at home, well, where does someone buying the company for £1 come into this? Well, one of the beautiful things about Wesfarmers' just catastrophic failure when it came to changing Homebase stores to better fit with their brand isn't just that they lost a bunch of customers, it's that they were on the hook for the rent payable on every single Homebase store. So that's the thing, they didn't just buy the business, they signed over all of the leases that they were paying on all those ginormous fucking stores. And the rent for 1 year was £800 million. Which, is fine if your turnover is £2 billion. But when you've just lost £600 million in sales with all these baffling business decisions, spent another couple $100 million more, changing over half, because I think they only managed to convert a handful of stores to Bunnings, but then also threw out all the stocks that were now losses, bought all the new stock that they sold that was now sat there not doing anything, new uniforms, all that good stuff. And in addition to that, now you've got an £800 million rent bill that's payable by the end of the year. The company's oh no, and the best part is, you can't just say, well, we're done. You can't just Michael Scott this and declare bankruptcy. And experts who are gleefully reporting on this, there is nothing Wesfarmers can do that's not going to cost them at least a couple $100 million to get out of. This is going to cost them hundreds of millions, if not close to £1 billion, when you consider all the costs that have been accrued.
See, when you started this out, I was I would have bought Homebase for £1, and now I'm thinking,
They could sell the business, but it wasn't worth anything, because they bought it for $350 million, which it was worth at the time. If they've just left it as it was, they would probably continue to make a couple of 10 million, 20, 30 million in profit every year.
At least profit.
Yeah, they would have been profitable. They wanted to make more profit than the little bit of profit it did make at the time. So they were in this really, really just unforgiving position of being all the way over the barrel with both of their cheeks spread. Basically ask, can anybody just come over here and give us an hand? And that hand came in the form of a company called Hilco, who said, you know what, we'll take Homebase off your hands for £1. And that's what they did. And Wesfarmers had no choice but to agree to hand over the entire business for £1.
Yeah, because that's the thing is we can either take this pound or we can spend, as you say, £1 billion to try and pay up all our fees for the year.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's and in the world of business, you can't give something away. You have to pay a nominal fee. So you'll probably hear about some CEOs and stuff take a nominal salary of $1 per year, and then they take the rest in stock dividends and stuff like that. But yeah, when it came to Homebase, it was the choice of, you can give us the entire business and all of the obligations that it includes for £1, or be on the hook for that rent bill we just mentioned, and then all the other associated costs. And at that point, Wesfarmers went, fuck it, we'll sign it over. We'll give you it for £1, good luck. Went back to Australia with their tail between their legs, and within 2 years, Hilco had made Homebase profitable again. Largely by just undoing all of the decisions that Wesfarmers made. So far away, Lucas, speaking of businesses and running them into the fucking ground, Let's talk about Fact Fiend.
Yeah, and we have another business-related video ready
We do
and
indeed,
recorded.
yes. We do, yes. And it is one of the most requested videos we have ever gotten in the entire life cycle of the channel. And it's me wearing a green screen morph suit in front of the green screen, which has, as of yet, not been edited or gone up because we are waiting for the Patreon we've got for our Untitled side channel to reach 1,000 patrons.
Yeah, it will be released on the Fat Fiend channel, right?
I guess if you want to see it, it'll probably really maybe we'll do like an unedited version or a longer version with like more special effects or something on the side channel. And maybe like a making of video showing how like much a green screen interacts with all the good stuff. So that's like, I never wanted to do it, but when it got to the position of like, look, Fact Fiend's not doing well, and I want you guys to at least have a couple months where you've got some security, I'll like, swallow my pride and wear a fucking green screen morph suit for a video. If it means you guys can like, earn like, your salaries for a couple more months. You know what? That's what a businessman does. When your back's to the wall, you make decisions that you might not agree with, but are for the best for your team. And I put that green morph suit on and fucking hell does it ride up your arsehole. Which you can't see in the video because, or I hope you can't see in the video because I'll be invisible.
I know that some people are like, well, I can't, afford to support you there. Like, it'll still be available for free. And the reason why we're not trying to hit like certain monetary goals is because we don't like asking people for like large amounts of money they might not have. Which is why we set up
based
like
on the numbers.
Number of patrons, even if those patrons are all paying $1.
Yes. So if you just want to pay like $1 to contribute, like $1 is worth as much to us in regards to building towards this goal as someone like putting in $20. Like there's no obligation to support us, but it is an option that I wasn't happy with, but was willing to do again as a compromise to ensure that you guys could continue to have some security in your job, which is a really rare thing to find these days.
We literally opened up Patreon because YouTube running like a one ad on a video is not paying enough anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So we've said this before, but like we're not trying to be greedy or anything. We want to just continue doing dumb fun stuff and also forcing Karl into a green morph suit every now and then.
And it's even something we joked about when we started the channel. It was a career arc for YouTubers, and it is you just get to a point where you sell the fuck out and just go against everything that you initially agreed because you realise, man, I don't want to go do anything else but this.
And also because everyone else does it.
That's the thing, yeah. It's like, fuck it, if everyone else is doing it, I'm going to do it too. It's also, I'm past that point of caring now because I when we started the channel, I was in my mid to late 20s, and now I'm in my 30s. And I'm just at a point now where like my ego is not attached to anything online. I couldn't give less of a fuck. Like, I don't really care if someone's like, I've lost respect for you. It's like, I don't know who you are. The only person whose opinion of me that matters is you guys, and you guys have all said like we appreciate you doing this, and that's enough for me. And maybe my missus, I guess, which it depends how tight that suit is when it's edited. If I get a message from her of like, you better start hitting the gym again, Karl. A bit too revealing. Well, no. The nips.